Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F124 career mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. We are bringing some upgrades with us into this weekend to this Williams team and hope to bring us a little bit closer to the fight with some teams ahead of us, such as Mercedes specifically now, as we're coming off of our first career point last episode. We're now up to a 66 overall driver with that 70 overall target by the end of the season. So we're going to take a look at where everyone stacks up coming into this weekend, because there is other teams that will be bringing some upgrades. Max Verstappen, he has won the first two rounds of the season. Charles Leclerc second in the standings, a second place effort in Bahrain, but last episode in Saudi Arabia ends up fourth. But you see an upgrade coming through, and there was an upgrade that failed as well. But overall, we had two upgrades come in successfully, including a beam wing upgrade right there. I would be the one actually to go through and fix that for the team here. And here's where the R&D is stacking up coming into this weekend. You see Red Bull, our team, and Haas all bring pretty good upgrades, but overall, just about everybody brings an upgrade as we get ready to practice in Australia.
Here with Gary Owen in the paddock after his first points result last weekend. How does it feel to be a point scorer and also having your mentor Sebastian Vettel here this week?
Yeah, points are great. Got a lot of work to do. It's a long year ahead, so we just can't get content. And having Seb here is awesome, and hopefully I can make him proud this weekend.
Hey bud, it's Seb, you got me?
Yes sir, loud and clear.
Great job last week. Focus on those tires this weekend. You need to take care of them.
You hear the advice from Sebastian Vettel, who makes it this weekend to the track to support us and, well, the rest of the paddock here as we get practice underway. So, what can we do this weekend in Australia? I feel like this is a good test to see where we're going to be at, of course, for a little bit of this next chunk of the season with these few upgrades that we have brought. And I was up to speed right away, having a bit of a moment there with some oversteer, just catching a little bit too much of the curbing. But overall, it kind of felt like Jeddah, where Bahrain I struggled in practice to get up to speed and find some comfort, but in Jeddah we were up to speed and comfortable pretty quick. I felt like I was up to speed and comfortable immediately out of the gate here in Melbourne, so I was quite happy and content with where the car was at already. Now we look at the teammate matchup between myself and Alex Albon. Of course, we have outqualified him in both rounds this season. However, he beat us in Bahrain. We beat him in the race in Jeddah, so we're 1-1, of course, when it comes to actual racing on-track performance now. As we come through to end our session here in practice overhaul, yeah, pretty happy with the car and where it is. And you can see P13 in FP1, while Albon's P9 on the soft compound tire. It's a Red Bull 1-2 as we would get ready for some qualifying here in Australia.
And a warm welcome, everybody. We're here in the heart of Melbourne. It's Albert Park, and it's qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix.
Our goal today is to aim to get into Q3, and James Vowles would let us know.
Okay, Gary, I think we can aim for Q3 today, push the limits, but be smart.
The message from James there, our team principal, of course, quite simple. Just try to make it into Q3. Be smart about doing it, but, you know, push the limits at the same time and just don't overdo it and, of course, wreck the car here now. So Q1 underway. We get on the racetrack now. Overcast conditions now, as we are all about pushing this track to the limits, because you can really feel like you can do it in this game compared to previous games. Now, a lot of the corners are, you know, capable of being flat out. Like this chicane right here, you can absolutely fly through here. You can abuse the curbing now through that chicane, and you're not really going to pay a single consequence for it. We're going to come to the line here at the end of our first lap, and we tuck into P4 in between Russell and Bottas, but by the end of the session out on the second lap at this point, we're down to P11, P12 for myself and Alex Albon. So overall looking pretty good, and we improve to a pretty solid effort here in Q1. It's going to be P11 still, but obviously a good time improvement there, so I'm feeling quite confident. Albon 13th, but I think both of us have more pace. So Gasly, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, and Ricciardo out as Visa Cash App RB continues to struggle, and Haas as well continue to struggle. Q2 now, and we actually saved a set of tires, so if we need a second set here in Q2, we can absolutely use one. The objective, like we said, we believe this team can get into Q3, maybe even both cars. So with these upgrades that we brought, we know it's just going to at least put us in the fight to get into the tail end of it. We aren't going to be, you know, a team that can go P6, P7 or something like that, but P9, P10 basically is the maximum that we can achieve. Here in Q2, we go P7, a great lap to kick things off, and it would stick. P8 is what it would remain, and Albon sneaks in as well. Hamilton out. He had a rough night in Jeddah, and it continues on, and Piastri as well out in Q2. So those two guys just not putting the laps down is what helps myself and Albon slip through. And now, for the first time in our career, making laps here in Q3. So of course we hit that first accolade last episode, getting our first point, and now we get another one of reaching Q3 for the first time. It's going to be a one and done type of lap here, but we are going to try and actually make multiple laps on the same set, so I guess a two and done, just same set of tires now. But we'll round the final turn. Albon's already made one lap. He is in P9 as expected. We're going to come down this front straightaway with the DRS open. We've out-qualified Albon every round so far, maybe not today. We remain P10. I immediately stick it into turn 1 going for another lap, but we invalidate our lap time there, so that is going to be penalizing, but we would get enough time to cool down the tires and make one more lap here, and we would find about 1/10 of a second gain towards sector 3 now, and actually 2/10 of a second. Is this enough to compete with Alex Albon? Everyone on the track making one more lap. We round the few final corners. We'll get around this final turn. DRS open again down the front straightaway. It's going to be just over 2/10 gain. Not enough. P10 is what it'll be.
Okay, nothing to hang your head about. Great drive today.
We will start P10. Albon outqualifies us for the first time by about 1/10 of a second. A Red Bull front row lockout. Verstappen pole by nearly 1/2 over his teammate Perez. Fernando Alonso P3 will try to threaten these two Red Bulls into turn 1, lap 1, the set of the grid.
This circuit missed a few years off the F1 calendar, and we missed Albert Park. So welcome back, and it's great to be back in Melbourne. Welcome to the Australian Grand Prix. The Melbourne circuit is certainly one that needs to be taken seriously. It's a combination of slippery surfaces and difficult corners, making it a very tricky track when it comes to overtaking. Drivers find it hard to pass and will need to take full advantage of those DRS zones if they want to have any hope of breaking through. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Fernando Alonso, Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Russell, Stroll, Albon, Golden Boy, Hamilton, Ocon, Bottas, Oscar Piastri, Joe, Gasly, Magnussen, Hülkenberg, Tsunoda, and Daniel Ricciardo fills the last spot on the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? So I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about this afternoon, and who's going to talk about it with us? None other than Naomi Schiff. Hi Naomi. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, every driver certainly has their own way of preparing themselves before a race. But I can tell you that pre-race rituals are a real thing. When I was in go-karting, I used to touch every wheel in a specific sequence before I got into the kart. And then I stepped up to cars and had a specific set of fireproof base layers just for race day. So watch the drivers when they're on the grid. Some may be sitting on the floor and isolating, others may be up to other things that they do. But these little things really help their minds get ready for the race.
Good luck today, bud. Remember, better teams are always paying attention.
Thank you, Seb. Let's have a good one, guys, and yeah, stay on top of things all day long and see what happens. It is going to be a medium to hard compound tire strategy here today, just like Jeddah, one-stop strategy. Bahrain, we saw the extremes of the tire wear, but not a lot here this weekend in Melbourne. Let's get ready to roll. Formation lap underway.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out.
We see the pair of Aston Martins going for the long run strategy. They will start this race on hards, everybody else on the medium compound tire.
We're almost ready to start the race as the cars take their positions on the grid, with the drivers and teams making their final preparations.
Okay, great weekend so far. We've seen the DRS play a big factor this year, so if we are in it, we can get a great result.
Yeah, 10-4. The DRS has been absolutely massive so far. We saw it last week and saw it a bit in Bahrain as well. We'll probably see it today. So you hear us talk about the DRS, and it's been a huge role this season where a slower team like our team or the Haas team even can stay with a Red Bull car if it has DRS. Now, rumor is there might be some changes coming to address this in the coming races, so we'll have to wait and see, but not today. So we know it's going to still play a big factor as we're ready to go racing from Albert Park in Australia, the former season opener for many years. Of course, now round 3, we're racing as Stroll, fellow Canadian, throws a bit of a block already on us down towards turn 1. Verstappen's been overtaken. Fernando Alonso to the lead of the Australian Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc slides into P3. Perez down into 4th. Lando Norris there in the background as well, trying to get after it with Carlos Sainz. But what a start from the Spaniard of Fernando Alonso in control as he seeks his first win in over a decade in Formula 1. It's been forever since we've seen him on the top step of the podium. And early on in this season, he appears to have a car that's capable of fighting up front. But it's so far been Red Bull dominating the front, with Verstappen at least winning both races. Perez hasn't been able to put the ending of these races together, as I have once again settled in behind my teammate of Alex Albon on the start of this Grand Prix. Feels like the trend we've seen all season long. Alonso under pressure from Verstappen, but he stays ahead. Verstappen went to put a move on the inside, but he backed out, thought better of it. A long race, 29 laps. We drop down to P11 on the start of this Grand Prix here as we just kind of settle in. Lewis Hamilton was the one that went forward. He got up to P8 actually, going around the outside of us and Albon and Stroll. He gained multiple positions in the opening moments of this Grand Prix, but we're settling in here in P11. You heard Sebastian Vettel talk early in the Grand Prix. You know, larger teams, better teams are always paying attention to what we're doing on this racetrack, so just got to think about that long term going forward. And as well, we're fighting for every position as hard as we can possibly fight. DRS enabled now, so we'll wait and see. Last episode, we kind of saw, you know, these groups, these 3 separate groups on the racetrack where they all get stuck together, and if they're within DRS, they just can't get away from each other now. And I think we're going to see that in full force here today in Australia with the length of the DRS zones that we have, as Verstappen goes round the outside of Alonso back to the front of the Australian Grand Prix now as I continue on in P11 just behind Alex Albon. You see that little blue icon above him? That's the icon for a teammate rivalry, as there is 3 different rivalries we can have in the career mode, but we only have currently 1 ongoing. As we start to get more, I'll definitely start to showcase those a bit more. But yeah, I mean, just settling in right now behind Albon now. We're 1-1 in terms of race performance, but now 2-1 as he out-qualified us today for the first time this season. Now, as you can see, lap 4, Alonso back around the outside here, going for the lead. He retakes it in Australia, and here we are seeing exactly what we were talking about, the DRS effect, and it's got everybody together. The whole field's here, stuck together, and that's what I was talking about. Is we have seen that even if a Red Bull car is in front, if you put the Haas car right now in DRS range of the Red Bull, the DRS, it just seems so strong that that Red Bull is not going to drive away from the Haas. Now that Haas is still going to be able to pressure the Red Bull, and that's comparing the best team on the grid with the worst team on the grid. The DRS right now feels quite extreme, and it sounds like I said, it's going to be addressed now as what a run through the chicane on our teammate of Alex Albon. Will make a move up the inside. He'll actually just pull in line. We'll take it. Position gained right there, and now we can settle in and focus on fellow Canadian here of Lance Stroll up to P10 in the points again. And as long as we're in that DRS, things are looking good. Look at this train of cars now. Everyone's together, but you're not really seeing moves being made because everybody has DRS. Now you are seeing battles for the lead. Alonso and Verstappen, they're actually just kind of swapping the lead back and forth. I'm not really showcasing it much because it's just kind of the same exact thing over and over. They're making the same move on the same straightaway into the same corner, and then they just swap it back. And here you can see right here an example of it. Verstappen doing the same move we've already seen a few times today. He'll go around the outside of Alonso, and Alonso will settle in and just do it back to Verstappen in another lap or 2. They're just going to continue to do that now as we come through to lap 8 now at this point. Sebastian Vettel, by the way, will will be joining Crofty and Brundle, actually, in the Through the Grid segment. So that's going to be interesting to take a listen on his current opinions on the state of the early part of this season in Formula 1 and how things are looking on the track. As we come through to lap 9 at this point, we are still in front of Albon and just hanging with Lance Stroll, who's on that hard compound tire. But what I'm noticing as the tires are wearing, unlike the previous 2 races where we've really struggled, it feels like as the tires are wearing, things are looking pretty good for us, and it feels like this is a track that's really benefiting our Williams in general. Of course, we brought upgrades this weekend, but I think this car is really suiting the track. But look at this, we got a huge run to the back of Lance Stroll. He's got DRS, but so do we, and we got the overtake on. Up the inside we go for a move now, as we'll be wheel to wheel into the right-hander, and he's going to keep it around the outside there, so he will stay ahead now as we have just over 20 laps to go. Max Verstappen is actually coming into the pits this lap, so he had just lost the lead, and he is going to come in at the end of lap 9. This is basically a 2-stop idea, and it's a poor stop. The right front wheel not coming off, and now it does, but that's going to be a very abysmal stop for Max Verstappen.
Brilliant stuff, guys. Lovely.
And that's 2 episodes in a row. We've seen Verstappen face issues in the pit lane. Around the outside, Charles Leclerc takes the lead of the Australian Grand Prix. He now is able to go through on Alonso, who has no DRS. Pit stop's about to kick off for a lot more cars, but Verstappen, I don't think that strategy is going to work because it seems like it's really difficult to pass with this kind of train effect that we're seeing here in Melbourne. So although he's going to have, maybe quicker pace, I don't know if it's quite going to work. So I see a bit of a moment there for me on the exit of that final turn, rear end kind of kicking out a little bit, but quite easy to catch. Now lap 12 underway, Albon about 0.4 of a second back, and you can see that Bottas is about 1 second back from myself. And look at the speed we carry through this chicane every time as these tires continue to wear. Again, that gives us an opportunity to maybe get aggressive on Lance Stroll. Here we go, looking for a move up the inside. We'll slide right in between him and the Mercedes of George Russell. A great little move there. And sorry, that's Lewis Hamilton in P7, not George Russell, who runs in P6 there, just in front of his teammate now. Hamilton leaving, of course, Mercedes at the end of the season, slipping and sliding on the exit there of that penultimate corner, and we spun round into the final turn, completely losing the rear end.
Okay, get it gathered up. What happened?
I just lost it, dude. No talent. I just simply dropped it out of the final turn. We're going to get it back going, but obviously the damage is done. It might not be worst case scenario. I mean, it's not good, obviously, but we're going to pit at the end of this lap, and we might still have a chance here because with everybody running in that kind of group and train in front of us, they're not going as fast as they could. So we're going to be going full beans, basically. Leclerc now into the pits with several others. Hamilton, Bottas as well. You can see the Alpine, the Haas as well, all coming in. So we're going to be boxing the same lap. We'll come in, get these mediums off. We'll throw on the hard compound tire. And now we're just going to hope for the best. Sergio Perez as well, exiting his pit box now. We'll get our mediums off and the hards on. And for the first time this season, a pit stop without an actual error. So that's a nice difference there to have. We'll get back on the racetrack. We're P19, so it's not pretty. Some more cars are going to have to pit in this next few laps now. Of course, we know the Aston Martins are going a bit long with Alonso and Stroll there on the hards. They're going to stick it out a little bit longer. I'm curious to see how Alonso's going to do. He's been in the mix for the win, but with this kind of drivers not being able to escape each other, I think that going for a longer strategy is not going to help you very much. But nonetheless, they're still on the racetrack while others are coming in to make some pit stops. So it's going to be interesting to just watch how everything plays out here. Pit cycle goes through and we're P16 at this point while the 2 Astons still continue on about their business. Alonso actually now into the pit lane. So when we went down the front straightaway, we would be able to get in front of Lance Stroll, but not Fernando Alonso. So Stroll made his pit stop as well. A few laps later, we passed him. So we're into P15 on lap 18 of 29. And look at the track map. Verstappen is well out in front. However, here he comes into the pits for his second pit stop. So I don't like this idea. I just don't think this is going to work. Still, it looks a little bit slow on Verstappen. Nonetheless, we will gain a free spot out of that. But the question is, will he be able to pass me? Will he run us down? He's P16 as we run now in 14th. We'll go through the grid with 10 to go.
Charles Leclerc leads over Lewis Hamilton in second. Perez just behind in third as we see a major DRS train formed for the third race in a row.
Hamilton with a great drive after no points in Jeddah. with this DRS train we are seeing this year, it is making passing more difficult than it has ever been in the sport. It's like we're watching Monaco on every track. The sport is well aware of this issue, and I was told this weekend they are working on a way to fix it.
Mr. Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us about this issue?
Yeah, guys, it's an interesting one for sure. Right now, the slowest cars on the grid are capable of hanging with a Red Bull car if it has DRS. Obviously, that is a major problem. Speaking of issues, here's some radio from a frustrated Max Verstappen who is stuck in traffic on his two-stop strategy.
Bullshit is what this is. What the were we thinking trying a two-stop strategy here? We can't pass me.
A very unhappy Max Verstappen you hear there.
He's right though, going for the two-stop was a bad call. Red Bull don't usually make these mistakes, but they sure have today. Now, they must hope Perez can find a way to pass two cars in these closing laps.
And there you have Through the Grid, and you heard a very animated Max Verstappen over the radio. You can't blame him for being angry. He's down in P16 and he's not going anywhere after dominating the first part, really, of this Grand Prix. Just as I suspected, we were able to start running down some cars, so I'm not the only one. Lance Stroll's followed me right up here as well, but somehow we have managed to spin the car out, lose a bunch of time, but rebound due to the fact that we've got this just train effect with this DRS that just seems too extreme to allow cars to kind of break away from each other. And you heard it as well in the Through the Grid. F1 is experimenting and likely going to be experimenting with a new DRS system change as soon as the next episode there. So that could completely change everything, or we might not see much change out of it, but it's good to see the sport is already trying to make some changes here as we'll sail it off into the chicane. Clearing Zhou Guan Yu, Oscar Piastri, he's had an up and down start to the season. Points in Jeddah, no points in Bahrain, looking like no points today. We'll go up the inside of him now as they just are kind of too reluctant to go for overtakes here today in Melbourne. And now we'll clear Piastri for that 12th position. So thank you very much, Oscar, in his home circuit, of course, here in Australia. Things are not looking hot for him right now as we continue to just focus forward on our race now. As you can see, the battles continue. Lewis Hamilton was up towards the front now, but Sergio Perez suddenly goes around the outside of both Hamilton and Leclerc, takes the lead from third, and then we come through into these battles as well in front of us with Bottas and Ocon as well. Magnussen, we've got a nice run here on the back of Kevin Magnussen as Ocon goes for a move on Bottas. And how about Alpine and Ocon? Great run for them, as it's not been a pretty start to the season for that Alpine team, and now they're in the mix for points, and we go through into P11. Haas running great as well up here, and suddenly we are back in the mix for scoring points. But I think we can pass these cars, and I think we can run down the cars ahead just with the way the AI are. I think we can really benefit now. And look at this, Bottas up the inside of Ocon into turn number one. They're going to be wheel to wheel. This is going to hurt the pace of both of them. Bottas with a terrible exit from turn one. We go around the outside, and now into the top 10 we go, and we're on pace to score points again here in Australia. 2 Grand Prix in a row now as Bottas tries to show the nose. We shut the door, and now with less than 10 laps to go, you can see Albon having a great run up there in P8, 4.7 seconds up the road. Here we go now, passing Esteban Ocon. Oh my goodness, we absolutely blow him out of the water. So into P9. Can we run down Albon, who's nearly 5 seconds up the road? Look how much time we close just because they're all stuck together and not really able to push. That's the key factor here. They cannot push right now, and that is what I am able to do. I am able to full send this car for the rest of the Grand Prix, and it was showing. 2.8 seconds to Albon now, coming to 5 laps to go in this Grand Prix. 2.4 seconds. That gap is coming down at a significant rate.
Keep it up, you will catch them.
This car is great, guys. You hear myself on the radio to the team, just letting them know the car is genuinely fantastic. We start driving away from Bottas and Ocon because they had started to engage in battling each other. So now we are not at risk of getting passed by any of them. Max Verstappen as well, we heard him in the Through the Grid absolutely livid on the radio, very frustrated with the Red Bull strategy. He has still gone nowhere, which is really frustrating for him. He has certainly thrown a third consecutive win to start the season out the window now, as we're still about 2 seconds back. We actually are slowing down a little bit in this gain up on the back of Albon and the other cars. Perez and Leclerc, they're just swapping back and forth for the lead like we saw earlier in the race with Verstappen and Alonso. So it's just the same thing over and over again. But right in the tail end of these next few laps, you can see we're really reeling in these guys now. 1.3 seconds. We're about to be in the DRS of Alex Albon. What a drive from spinning out early in the Grand Prix to rebounding back through the grid and into the top 10, and even a chance to go after 8th place. 2 laps to go, and we are within striking distance of our teammate of Alex Albon. They just cannot quite get through that chicane like I am able to now. Sergio Perez currently P2 to Leclerc, who leads the way, but everyone just runs in this line, slowing themselves up, and that allows me to close up right to the back of my Williams teammate here, coming to 1 lap to go in the Australian Grand Prix here from Albert Park. Who's going to come out on top between Leclerc and Perez? That's the next big question there. White flag is in the air. 1 lap of racing remains, and we are going to have to be patient. We would stay behind Albon all the way to the DRS zone, the long sweeping straightaway we'll call it now, and you can see the red light flashing. He's in harvesting mode, and now DRS enabled for us. We're going to go for the move. We'll sweep around the outside. Not even a contest there. When he's in harvesting, he can't do anything, and it seems like Alonso as well is in harvesting. Perez is taking the lead, but we have a huge opportunity here. We have battery remaining. We breeze past Alonso. Russell in harvesting. We lunge up the inside of him as well. Nearly contact, but he keeps it around the outside and stays ahead. But suddenly on the final lap into P7, still side by side, Russell clear, and Sergio Perez has taken the lead on the final lap from Charles Leclerc. Rounding the final turn down the front straightaway, Sergio Perez will come through to get the victory here for the first time this season in Australia.
This is how we do it, man. We shut our mouth and we work hard.
Let's go, guys. What a day, what a drive, what a recovery.
Incredible drive, Gary. That's the type of race that puts your name on the map.
Thank you, James. What a day. Awesome stuff, guys. Thank you.
Another superb Australian Grand Prix comes to an end then, and it's a thoroughly deserved victory.
Red Bull still win as they remain undefeated, but this time it's Perez as Verstappen goes pointless. The 2-stop strategy, he was the only one to try it, and boy is he regretting it right now. How about Lewis Hamilton ends up on the podium? Now, we're not really seeing much consistency in finishing positions for any of these drivers. It feels like it's kind of all over the place right now. It depends on, are they going to have a pit error with these new pit guns that we're seeing this season, and as well, just how is the pit cycle going to affect it? It's really everything is happening in the pit cycle in the first 3 Grand Prix of this season now. But if F1 does bring this new potential DRS system starting next episode, the question of course will be then, will we be able to see the actual on-track decisions and driving start to actually make a true difference that we probably want to see going into the remainder of this season. The first 3 Grand Prix of the season have turned out incredible, but it's a day like today where we spin and recover and beat our teammate and get P7 passing Fernando Alonso on the final lap. It's a race like that that puts our name on other teams' radars, and I think we're going to have some opportunities coming up soon. We have proved our worth up the ranks through Formula 2, and we're certainly already proving we belong here in Formula 1. Ninth in the standings, 7 points to our name. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And of course, in the constructors, Williams gets points for both drivers. As you can see, 9 points to the team, 6 in the constructors. I'll see you guys in the next one for round 4. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your day for watching, and have yourselves a great day.